our pumpkin cookie, we are going to be using some pumpkin orange. And I've got a cookie baked up here. I went ahead during the baking process, or right before I baked it, when it was in the raw dough form still, drew these little lines to kind of help guide where I want things to go. So I'm just going to take and cut the tip off of my tipless bag and get that out of my way. And then I'm going to flood the center and the sides. And I'm just going to come back through and start filling in. I use the tip of the bag to kind of push that frosting around. And then I will set that down and can just come through with my little scraper tool. And it's okay if it goes down into your lines. These are just kind of a guide so you know where you want it to kind of puff out at, some definition. Just going to add a little more through here. You want to come all the way up because from here down, or from here up, is going to be your leaves and a little stem over here. You want to make sure this is full and that you don't have any craters. So just kind of keep working that frosting in right where you want it. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to connect, and I'm just going to do these outer edges. Come back through with my little scraper tool. Could also use a toothpick, and I will just start moving that frosting around. I do like to have a little bit of the cookie show on the edge. That's just a personal preference. If you want to flood all the way over to the edge, you can certainly do that. Then I'm going to come over to this side and I will do the same. And then once I have these sides flooded, I'm just going to let this dry for a little bit so that it sets up before I do the in-between pieces. If you find that you're getting just way too many air bubbles, I would recommend that you add in a little, take your frosting out of your bag, add in a little more powdered sugar. Also, if your bags have been sitting, they tend to separate, the water separates from the color. And if you don't get that really mixed in well before you start flooding, your cookie frosting will be really foamy. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit more. Kind of bring this one out a little bit more too. Just want to bring it just a little bit over more to this little indentation here. There we go. Just give my cookie a little tap, fix any imperfections. And I'm just going to move this off to the side and let it set up. And then once it has set up, then I can come back through and do these side ones. So I'm just going to very carefully move it off and let it dry. My pumpkin has set up a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and go back through and flood these other sections now with my orange. And I'll stop every once in a while and use my scraper tool just to kind of push that icing where I want it to go. And I just want it to gently meet up with the other icing. Just adding a little bit of frosting at a time. Okay? And then I'll just repeat that on the other side. I'm just adding it to the center so that I can work it out. And I'm just going to let that set. And then I'll come back through and do some thicker accent lines. And this will help to show me where those need to go. So I'm going to let this set up. And then the last thing will be just to add the little stem and some little leaves. So now that I have let my pumpkin set up, I can go ahead and do my, my stem here. And then here I'm going to use this to do leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and do my stem first. Just make sure this is coming out okay. So I'm going to just kind of follow this shape here. And then I'll just fill it in. Okay, just like so. The other thing I want to do is kind of add a little bit of interest to this. So we have the lines that are showing from the lines that were in the cookies, and they're showing up because we piped the middle and then the sides and then came back through and piped the two middle ones. And for all of these frostings, for all my cookies, I use anywhere from a 15 to an 18 second count of flood consistency. But what I want to do now is I want to just kind of accentuate the pumpkin. So I'm just going to come through and I'm just going to kind of make these lines a little bit larger. And I can even come through if you want, and you can add an outline around. And then that just gives a little more definition to your cookie. Okay. And then if you want, you could flood this first. So I could take some green here and just kind of outline this. And then I can let that set up. And then I could come back through and pipe some leaves on top of it just to give it a little bit of dimension. I can also use this looser consistency icing if I wanted to do like some curly cues. I could do that, or I could use the thicker. So I'm just going to let this set up, and I want to kind of connect this a little bit just because it isn't looking super connected up here. Here, that looks better. And I'll probably put some leaves and stuff there too. So I'm just going to let this set up and harden, and then I'll come back through and add in some leaves. So I brought my pumpkin back over here, and I have some stiffer consistency icing, and I'm going to do some leaves. So this is a 352 tip, and you can also just cut the V into your bag and then add your little leaves. So I actually want to start them about right here, and then I can just kind of fan them out just like so. Then you have a cute little pumpkin cookie. And then I can also take some of this green. I don't need a ton of it, just a little bit. Put it into one of my bags. Cut a little bit of the tip off. And then I can just use this frosting, and I can do some curly cues. So you can kind of come down and around and just create some cute little curly cues onto your little pumpkin. And then give it a spray, and you've got yourself a cute little pumpkin.